Ready? Ready? Train, sit. Good sit. Yes. This yard is a muddy mess. And these are going to be some wet, muddy pups. But you just got to do it. You have a high energy working breed dog like a German Shepherd. Finley, we're not really totally sure what she is, but she's high energy. You got to let them run it out. Otherwise, they're going to find a way to expel that energy. And usually it's in ways that we don't like. So before we go and do shop time, I'm going to give them some playtime. Now, not everyone is as playful. Check out this guy. What are you doing? Yeah? You got ball too? All right, hey everyone, Trey with Doggone Overlanders. Today, build continues. Yesterday got the sliders on, the Backwood Adventure Mod sliders. Great looking sliders. Can't wait to get them out on the trail. No doubt they're going to be super tough, and most importantly, do what they're supposed to do, which is protect the underneath of the truck. Today, install is going to be on suspension. Going to be tackling rear suspension, so Bilstein 5100s, along with the Icon Add-A-Leaf kit. Now, why did I go with Bilstein 5100s and the Add-A-Leaf instead of something sexier? And honestly, budget right now. Trying to do all these things to get this rig up and running and get us out overlanding between the bed rack, the tent, the sliders, the suspension, wheels, tires. Now, that's a lot. So went with something that was budget friendly, but honestly, Bilstein, like how many folks out there are running Bilstein suspension? So not exactly the suspension that I was looking at, not exactly what I was really wanting to put on the rig, and probably not what I'm going to stay with, but we'll see. I haven't even given them a chance yet. So we'll see how they perform, we'll see how they hold up, and who knows. Most likely though, we'll be going with something a little beefier, a little sexier, some point in time down the road. So for now, I'm gonna get this truck flipped around. It is cold and rainy outside. I'm gonna get heater going in here and we're gonna get to work. Okay, I know a lot of other people have done this, but hey, why not do it since we're here? So this is the original stock shock that just came off my Toyota, and this is the replacement. This is the 5100. And look, in case you didn't know, hadn't seen this before, Toyota uses Bilstein. These are Bilstein 4110s, okay? So 4110, 5100, and that is definitely a beefier shock. Okay, so I know I said this is not an install and how-to video, but I do want to show you one thing. Now you're going to see a lot of videos that tell you when it comes to getting this off this shock assembly off the rear end, that all you got to do is take a pair of vice grips and grip that top. Okay, cool. There's not a lot there. And you're trying to get this nut off. You don't have much room to work with. And you will reach a point where the nut is starting to come up, and then this isn't, you don't have anything left to grip with a pair of vice grips. But the whole assembly wants to still keep turning, right? So I haven't seen this on any other YouTube video, so I might as well throw this in there and hopefully help you out. This boot will slide down. Then you can grip this with the vice grips to keep this from turning. Now, normally you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to rough up this surface, but you're not reusing it. You're taking this off. This is going to the trash. So who cares if the vice grip mars it up a little bit, but it will grab hold of that so that you can then get this nut off the top. And I guess if you wanted to, you could just do that from the beginning instead of trying to get vice grips on the top of this thing like I did. So a little bit of a pain in the butt. And like I said, I haven't seen anyone else make that suggestion. So there you go. Isn't that right, Trina? Yeah. Yeah. Listen to my dad. But he don't know what he's talking about. you hate unboxing videos as much as I do, so what's in the box? You know what's in the box. I already told you what I'm doing. This is the Icon Add-A-Leaf system. So let's get it out and get it set up. They're well packaged. All right, so what we have here is the Icon Add-A-Leaf. Look at all that big, sexy steel. So, we've got to take the bolts, the sleeves off, take this sleeve off. We won't be using that. We will, of course, be using these, okay? And we got some hardware. Got our new U-bolts. So, you won't be using the factory bolts with U-bolts that you took off, but you already know that because you watched other YouTube videos, right? Most importantly, get a sticker. Okay, driver's side done, and I'm not gonna lie to you, this was a bit of a challenge. For all you guys out there that make these YouTube videos that make it look so simple, I don't like you, okay? Be honest. Tell us the pain in the butt. So I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna try to show you some things that was difficult. But the Add-A-Leaf is on. The 5100 shock is on. Looks good. And everything's tightened up secure. So I think we're good to go. Okay, so a few of the things that gave me trouble yesterday. Of course, we talked about this and being able to barely grab a hold of the top of that stem to get this nut off. So today I'm not even gonna fool with that. Just going to pull that sleeve down, grab hold of this, and be done with that to get the shock off. That nut down there isn't too bad. This has to be cut. Now that's not bad, but underneath this, that has to be ground off. Now it's not difficult, but it certainly takes a while. So definitely need good grinder and cutting wheels. Getting these off isn't too bad, especially with an impact. And then the nut under here, that one wasn't too bad either. But unfortunately, I would love to be able to put some PB Blaster on that to try to loosen it up beforehand. But obviously with the bump stop in place, you can't do that. So we're gonna get started on this side and see if this side hopefully goes a little better than the other side. Okay, once again, not an install how-to video, but I'll show you the biggest difficulty I've had and show you what I'm doing, and hopefully this helps you. When you put the Add-A-Leaf in, you gotta line the bolt up, and you gotta make sure all these springs are lined up, stay in line and in place. And that's easier said than done. Now, some people have recommended using the jack to lift the axle back up and do it. And we are going to do that to a degree, but when I was doing the driver's side, I found that that was just making things shift and bind, and that's not what we want. So I've started the nut on top here, and I'm not using the nut to tighten this down and compress these together. I'm going to use the C-clamps to gradually bring these back together, pinch them down, and then gradually work the nut down to keep progress, but also keeping this bolt in line. I had a heck of a time with the other side with that bolt getting misaligned through there, and yeah, had to back up and start over multiple times. So lesson learned on that side. Hopefully this side goes a little bit smoother. We'll see. But simply taking the clamps, and then I'm going to start gradually. All right, so we gradually start working these springs closer together, making sure everything's nice and lined up and there's no tension on that bolt. Now, right now, the nut is there just simply to keep the bolt from falling out. It's not, I'm not applying tension to that bolt to try to bring these back together. If you do that, you're certainly gonna strip out the nut, probably break the bolt. Like, there's just way too much tension here. But I'm already getting some space, so now I can move the nut up. So now I know the nut's, you know, in line, free and clear, and I can manually, after I raise the bolt up, I can bring the nut back down some and get a little more thread. So gradually work these back together, keeping the bolt lined up where it doesn't get off skew and bound, and then start bringing the, gradually bringing the axle up. The head of that bolt has to line up here with the head of the plate on the top of the axle in order for everything just to be just right. So again, with the other side, had a heck of a time getting that done. Hopefully today won't be quite so bad. All right, for the top, I got Allen key in there. I believe it's 5mm, 17mm for the nut. And we'll get that tightened down. No spec on that. Just tightened it down until I got plenty of thread showing, and that bushing is good and compressed, and we're gonna call it good. Now, Tacomas, you have this bracket that originally secured the brake line to the original bracket of the leaf. There's not a place for this now. And I tried to kind of figure out a way to secure this some kind of way. Couldn't really find a good way to do it, and that seems to be the consensus of other YouTubers who have done this. Some folks seem to leave it. I just don't think that's a good idea. I don't like the idea of this just hanging around down here. So as much as I would like to secure this line, there's another one up a little bit further that secures it well. That one will go back, and I just cut this off. I don't want it hanging there, just being free and available to be grabbed by something and then tearing this brake line. So I'm just gonna cut it off. There you go, problem solved. Now this is the part that makes you feel good. Okay, that is it. It wraps up the install of the rear suspension, the Bilstein 5100 shocks, and the Icon Adderley setup. Everything's bolted down nice and secure. We hope. About to find out. About to go for a test drive. Make sure I don't feel or hear anything that doesn't sound like it's supposed to. With any suspension, got to give it time, got to give it some miles to settle, then I'll come back and recheck everything. So for the front end, I'm going also with Bilstein, the Bilstein 6100s. I'm not looking to put a lot of lift on this truck, at least not right now. So just get her up a little bit, get a little more ground clearance. Most importantly, make room for a little bit bigger tire. For the wheels, gonna be going with the Cooper ST Max. Not the Pros, that's their mud tire. This is a hybrid tire, something between a mud tire and an all-terrain tire. Now, why Cooper tires? I'm a huge fan of Cooper tires, and that's based on my experience with them. They've been phenomenal. I've had 3 sets of them. My last set that I had on the 4Runner, it's a 60,000 mile rated tire, and I got somewhere close to 90,000 miles on that tire. Unbelievable. And that's with off-roading. Airing down, yeah, those tires just did phenomenal. So that's what I plan to stick with. Um, I know a lot of you guys, the KO2s and no, I'm not knocking them. I'm sure they're great tires, but man, you're just gonna have a hard time convincing me to go away from the Cooper tires. All right, we're going to wrap up this video on the suspension installation. Yes, the front suspension is on. No, I didn't record it. Still getting used to this talking to a camera thing, and I had someone helping me, and yeah, just felt to be kind of weird. Didn't even ask them if they were willing to do it. So front suspension is on. The Bilstein 6110 shocks, coilovers, and the JBA upper control arms. I did go with the standard ones, mainly cost. But honestly, I feel like those are probably more than sufficient for the type of off-roading, overlanding that I do. Nothing that extreme, uh, and I just don't feel like those are going to give me any trouble. So now, getting the upper control arms installed. If you've watched any YouTube videos, and I know that you have, on how to install upper control arms on your third gen Tacoma, we all know the problem. And I certainly experienced it like everyone else. Let me show you. Okay, getting the coilovers, the old ones out and the new ones in, really wasn't that bad. But the control arms, well, now that's a different story. And it's because of the main bolt here that goes through. And this seam of the body panels that is exactly in line, and you have to pry out in order to be able to get this bolt out on both driver side and passenger side. Now, why is it this way on the Tacomas? I have no idea. I would love for someone from Toyota to explain that to us. The idea that you have to basically damage the body welds or the seams in order to get a part off, that's crazy. Absolutely nuts. Like, no Tacoma owner is ever going to replace their upper control arms. Wow. So, first impressions of the Bilstein suspension, really good. The rod quality is great. Maybe a tad bit stiffer than the old, but so far, just on everyday normal road travel, I really haven't noticed a difference. Um, I did get about 2.5 inches of lift on the front end, and right at 2 inches on the back end. So she's sitting fairly level, a little nose high. I imagine some of that's going to kind of settle in time. That's pretty standard with any suspension installation. So as for the installation of the suspension, it was pretty straightforward, and like you've seen on most any other video of anyone replacing the upper control arms and the coilovers. So nothing really special to film there, nothing really different to tell you. Now, I will say that most people seem to have trouble with the driver's side more so than the passenger side. And for me, it was actually the opposite. And there's a good reason for that. I knew, based on watching the previous videos, that driver's side was going to be more difficult. You have the battery that's there, and there's a large wiring harness there. So before I even started trying to remove the bolt, I eliminated those problems. And I would suggest that to you too. By taking out the battery, which is simple, and the little tray that it sits on, and then unclipping that large wiring harness and getting that out of the way, it made it a lot easier to get in there and to shape that body seam to the point that we could get that bolt out and back in with seemingly less difficulty than what we had on the passenger side. Regardless, neither side was easy, and it really just shouldn't be that way. But it is what it is. We still love our tacos, and we love making improvements to them. So really happy so far with the Bilstein suspension. The JBA upper control arms, Really happy about them. So why did I pick those? There's a lot of options out there. On my Forerunner, I had run the SPC. Seemed to be a good solid product, and it was. The adjustability of that ball joint to help correct for the caster and camber seems like a great idea. The problem was the last time that I went to get an alignment, the alignment tech, and this was a shop who knew what they were doing, at least they claimed to know what they were doing as far as lifted off-road vehicles, and they seemed to be familiar with the SBC control arms. So I felt like he did everything he could, but he still wasn't able to totally get it within the green, within spec, uh, on the alignment. So that kind of had me curious. Why did I spend all this money on a set of upper control arms to do a certain purpose, which is to get the vehicle back into spec on alignment with bigger tires, if it doesn't do that? JBA claims that their control arms will allow the alignment to get in spec with up to a 4-inch lift. I only had about a 2-inch lift, so shouldn't have been a problem. And it wasn't. The alignment was done very quickly, very simply, and everything's in spec. So far, really pleased with the JBAs. They actually did what they said they were, what they do. The other thing is the ability to grease not only the ball joint, but also the bushings. So that annoying squeaking that can happen shouldn't be a factor here. And if it does start squeaking, well, just add some lubricant to it. So really the only ones on the market that I saw that have those grease fittings for those bushings as well as the ball joint. So looks to be a solid product. They look great on the vehicle. Really like the red. The powder coating looks great. We'll see how they perform, but I don't think I'm going to be disappointed with those. So what's coming up next? Well, lots of cool things still happening. Still trying to get it ready to actually go overlanding. So I'm going to start working on the basics of the electrical system, because what do we love to put on these things? Lots of lights and all kind of gadgets. So I want to start off right with the electrical system. I'm going to install my switch panel, and then from that point on, anytime I install a light or any other device, it's pretty straightforward from that point as far as how to run the electrical. The biggest thing after that is going to be front bumper. Can I go overlanding at this point? Yes, I can. Do I feel comfortable doing so, especially solo, without having a winch on that front bumper? No, I don't. Okay, especially since I already have a winch here. I got a great deal during Christmas time on an open road winch. I've heard nothing but good things about those, so I'm really excited to get that installed. Honestly, hope I don't ever have to use it, but then again, maybe I do. But until I have front bumper picked out and installed uh, for that winch to have a home, going to be a little conservative on the overlanding adventures to see, again, especially when we're out solo. So I know this was kind of a long video. I appreciate you sticking with it, and hope you found some of this interesting, some of it helpful and informative when it comes to installing, upgrading suspension on your 3rd gen Tacoma. So for now, take care, be safe out there. We'll see you in the next one.